റാഷണൽ ഡിസ്കോഴ്സസ് നടന്നിരുന്നു എന്നതാണ് ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യം. ക്രിട്ടിക്കലായ ഡിസ്കോഴ്സസ് നടന്നിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ ഇതിനൊരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കാണിക്കാം. ഈ ദൃശ്യം യൂറോപ്പിലെ ഒരു ടീ ഷോപ്പ് ആണ്, യൂറോപ്പിലെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു കോഫി ഷോപ്പാണ്. ഈ കോഫി ഷോപ്പിൽ ആളുകൾ ഇരുന്ന് സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് അവിടെയുള്ള ഗവൺമെന്റ് പോളിസിയെ കുറിച്ചാണ്, സർക്കാരിലേക്ക് സമർപ്പിക്കേണ്ട നിർദ്ദേശങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച്. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ എൻവയോൺമെന്റൽ ഇമ്പാക്ട് അസസ്മെന്റ് നടക്കുന്നു. എൻവയോൺമെന്റൽ ഇമ്പാക്ട് അസസ്മെന്റ് അഥവാ ഡ്രാഫ്റ്റ് റിപ്പോർട്ട് പൊതുജനങ്ങളുടെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിന് വേണ്ടി വിട്ടുകൊടുക്കും. ആ പൊതുജനങ്ങളുടെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിന് വിട്ടുകൊടുക്കുന്നത്, ആ സിസ്റ്റം പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നത് നമ്മൾ ഈ വളരെ ആധികാരികമായി ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്ന് തന്നെ. I think there are some people who need. Hello. Okay, fine. Request has 1 second. 1 second. I'm reading some message. Some people need English medium. Yes, of course. I will switch it to English medium. And yesterday, Rafi sir asked me to present the maximum in Malayalam or using bilingual as the best mean for getting people on board. Okay, fine. I will switch it to English. 1 second. Yes. European setting or European post-Enlightenment society, there was a space of rational critical debate in the form of the gathering like saloons or coffee shops, etc., where critical rational discourse happened. Remember, it was very critical to the point. They were totally critical and not reflecting their any private interest. They are not reflecting their private interest. They are not expressing their private demands, but rather they are discussing and they are making it a rational discourse. They are making under scathing criticisms, and then they are submitting to the legislature for lawmaking, and the legislation is happening, and they implement. Such a kind of period, Habermas says, but did not last longer. This was an ideal space. Of course, this is an ideal space as far as India is concerned. Just takes us to universal access in the Indian context because of the caste system we had, because of the class system we had, because of the colonial structure we had. Such a kind of public sphere did not exist in its full manifestation in India. So what here I'm telling is the public sphere characterized by 4 major characters: universal access, disregard for rank. There is no hierarchy, absence of hierarchy. In the coffee shop or saloon, everybody takes part in the debate. Everybody contributes it. Everybody criticizes. Some people criticize, some people join. Some people say, "Wahin mandir banayenge." Some people say, "No, mandir be if the mandir is built with the state fund, or if there is a state representation in the construction of the Ram temple, of course our concept of secularism will be sabotaged. Our concept of and some people says no. And us, the Somanath temple was, the foundation stone for Somanath temple was laid down by the former president Rajendra Prasad. The prime minister must go to the visiting Ayodhya, and then there should be Bhumi Puja in the presence of prime minister. And the critical rational debate should take place in this way, and there should be some reasonable discussions or rational discussions going on this. And after certain public opinion is created, and that public opinion will be taken by the system or the government, and the government makes it's a policy or a law from this input given by the public sphere. This was the concept of Habermas public sphere, and this was very much essential for a deliberative democracy. For a deliberative democracy to happen, this public sphere and the public opinion created a public radical debate is essential for a deliberative democracy to work on. But what happened in India was just opposite to that. In India, such a kind of public sphere did not exist because we had a colonized structure. The government no difficult, but still there was a public sphere, even though not in the full manifestation. There was some attempt in during the time of anti-colonial struggle in the form of national movement, movement sphere. Of course, there the debate happened, discussions happened. There were moderates, there were extremists, and people came together and discussed the issue of national importance. They need freedom. They independent from British acts. So this public sphere during the time of colonial period, that was in the form of national movement, in fact made discourses and submitted their report to the government, and government heard it, government denied it, and then moved revolutionary path in the form of Salta Satyagraha, civil disobedience, everything erupted after that. So a public sphere is essential for a democracy, for working of the government. Here I want to tell you one more concept. We normally call the media as the fourth estate. Media as the fourth estate. Actually, this concept of fourth estate was in 1757, I think, when he was sitting in the British Parliament, he pointed to the gallery and then said, "There sits the fourth estate." The fourth estate means to cover the parliamentary procedures there. The first estate was the spiritual lords, then the temporal lords, then the commons, or the judiciary, executive, and legislature. And the fourth estate is more powerful. We don't know actually if members said it or not, but it was reported in that way. So the the fourth estate was more important. If you consider the fourth estate and public sphere as almost synonymous, in its earlier period in European settings did not take place through newspapers, but it was in the form of a physical space where people came and discussed. In the form of, as I said, when people began to emerge in large quantum, and since the nation-state area is quite large, then the public sphere, in the form of gathering, in the physical gathering, people to communicate through newspapers, journals, weeklies, etc. So suddenly took the space of this public sphere once physically even physically gathered. So media became the essential communicative devices of this public sphere. In that sense, you can say media communicating the idea of this public sphere to the system. In a way, you can see a feedback loop is there, and the system is communicating back to the society through the media. And of course, with the Man Ki Baat, with the kind of public sphere, we have still tea shop here, we have still radio here, we have a media here, we have a gathering here. And the people listening to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi is saying through Akashvani, through radio, this will give you a sense of a public sphere. Once we had the but you see the public sphere, but just opposite to that. Why do I say public sphere in the European settings? The most important feature of the public sphere was the space was devoted for a kind of debate. So here in the Man Ki Baat, it is a monologue where the people are hearing the speech of the Prime Minister and then following what he is saying. For example, if they understand the way. So what I'm saying is the Man Ki Baat gathering or the gathering in the present form. For example, people who are gathering for Shilanyas or Bhumi Puja, all these were different from the kind of public sphere Europe setting. And here, the Hindustan Times, remember, in Hindustan Times, when this bomb was exploded in the court in the assembly, or it was thrown Bhagat Singh this event, and even it published the pamphlet thrown by Bhagat Singh that time, the Hindustan Times. But remember, what we witnessed during the time of Bhumi Puja was one of news broadcasters in India, the regional news broadcaster Suvarna. The Suvarna news came with an advertisement, and the news anchor himself called Jai Sri Ram. It takes up what experienced or what Eugen Habermas uh, conceived, what even we expected, what we experienced during the time of our freedom movement. So there was some sort of transformation happened with on the concept of public sphere in a big way. And I will tell what was the kind of transformation that happened in this public sphere. And for this purpose, I need some thinking about what is the role of media, what is the role of language in creating a kind of a sense of belonging and then creating a group activity. For this purpose, I will go back to in this book, wonderful book on nationalism, where he explains the role of print capitalism in developing these nationalistic aspirations and nationalistic feeling. In this book, print capitalism. Print capitalism means those the capitalists who supported the print media to flourish with their funding and expecting the profit out of it, especially who invested in the vernacular press, means the regional news. Here in this book, Benedict Anderson argues a nation is imagined because the members of even the smallest nation will never know most of their fellow members, meet them, or even hear of them. Remember, the Americans or the peoples belonging to the 30s did know more than 100 people. But they developed a sense of belonging. They began to think about a country like United States of America, or we began to think about the Indian people. People think about they are the citizens of United Kingdom. All this happened because of the emergence of language and the print capitalism or the print media. In fact, brought a kind of a belonging, a sense of belonging to the people, and with that sense of belonging, they believe that they are part of a nation or they are belonging to a nationhood. This was argument of Benedict Anderson, and I am taking one of this to argue that as Martin Luther did when he fixed the 95 thesis poster on the door of the Wittenberg chapel. It was in the Latin language, but later it was circulated to German or translated to German and spread to the other parts of Europe by translation. In fact, this Protestant took, uh, a turn with the print media or with the print technology came to be. So print media created a kind. It is powerful. It is a powerful tool for creating a group sentiment. It is a powerful tool for creating even a nation. This was the argument of Benedict Anderson in his book. And that's a media is very powerful. A media is a very powerful tool because it can create a public opinion. It can create a sense of belonging. It can create a group feeling. It can create a group activity. Create a particular pattern of group activity. Like, why do people act in such a way, irrational way? Because there was a persistent effort of media manipulation of the public opinion. And with that manipulated public opinion, this group moves in that particular direction. And I will just come to that later. Now, just go back to some of the media formations in the past. Peking gets it. perhaps the first uh, journalistic kind of a piece appeared in China. Remember, it was in China where the paper was discovered, paperons from the paperon plant. China came to the 15th century, the first kind of a newspaper format, Peking Gazette. Actually, this was not daily by any particular printing publishing house, but the government himself or the bureau himself created some kind of a written pamphlet containing some secret information of the government system, and then it was given to public on some rewards, some money, something like that. It was Peking Gazette. Later, this Peking Gazette was officially published by the Chinese government. Later, Peking Gazette. It was in the 7th century. Government secret kind of a thing only. And these are some of the newspapers or the dailies published by European countries in 17th century. Will tell this public occurrences was one of the newspaper published in United States of America. Remember, it was published in 1690 September 25. And because the government did not, the colonial administrators did not give permission for the publishers to continue their publication. Public occurrence, the first newspaper in United States of America that was published, that was closed on the same day. And I will tell you one more book, one more publication. That was the Gazette de France. Gazette de France later became La Gazette. La Gazette. It became Gazette de France was published by the French people with the support of the French administration. It was in 1631. Remember, when the French Revolution happened in 1789, the Bastille Palace was stormed by the protesters or the revolutionaries. This newspaper did not publish such a kind of incident take place. It did publish, okay. Because if our or Babri Masjid was demolished and the newspapers are not reporting it. Similarly, when the French Revolution occurred, the only newspaper that was able for the Bouchot and the first was Gazette de France. It did not publish such an incident take place, and that was in 1789. And this was the relation was the newspaper printed edition. You can the first printed newspaper in the same format of a newspaper, but it was not a periodical, means it was not regular, though it was a printed format in the form of a newspaper. These papers were almost they were moving with the establishment, but whenever they tried to move away from the establishment came and they closed its circulation. See the situation in India. The newspaper Bengal Gazette came with the advertisement or the tagline like this: a weekly political and commercial paper open to all parties, but influencing that of his Bengal Gazette. Open to all parties. It is open to all stakeholders. Anybody can read it. But remember, this newspaper is not influenced by anyone. This newspaper cannot be access to influence. This was a statement by Augustus Hickey when he published in 1780 the Bengal Gazette. The same newspaper was later, after 1 year, it was closed and it was banned by the Governor General because of the Governor General and the Chief Justice of this Supreme Court of the British East India Company. That was in 1780. And this was the Bombay Gazette. Again, the same thing. Bombay Gazette also moved in law enforcement. When they tried to criticize against the commissioner, then the Bombay Gazette too was banned by the British people. And these were some of the newspapers during the time or now the Hindu Patriot with Harish Mukherjee as its proprietor, Samvad Kaimudi with Rajendra Prasad, Young India with MK Gandhi, and Kataj, one of the friend of Raja Ram Mohan Rai. All these newspapers took stand against the British government in India. They were anti-colonial in nature. Remember, of which the Hindu Patriot demands a special mention. The Hindu Patriot, in fact, was the instrument behind a drama called Neela Darpan that, in fact, influenced or that, in fact, attracted the indigo laborers, and they influenced indigo laborers to strike against to patriot. So what I'm here telling is the public sphere or the media during our freedom struggle were anti-establishment in nature because of its colonial, because the newspapers took the stand against the establishment. They came and organized spheres or the public spheres as much as possible. Even though we had a caste system, we had linguistic issues, and newspapers published by these people took a stand against the government and gave space for critical debate. But after independence, such a public sphere but did not last long. Even there was such a spectrum of public sphere existed in India compared to the European setting, as what Eugen Habermas said. There was relatively a fair amount of public the publications by or through the publications of the freedom fighters in the form of National Herald, Hindu Patriot, Young India. All these newspapers took that anti-establishment stand. So, and after the independence, so in the post-independent period, what India witnessed was not only the public sphere declined, the relatively available public sphere declined, it got a new space as well. Slide of the life world and the system. What is the importance of the life world? In the life world, you have your private concerns, your family issues, your professional issues, your economics, identities like religion, etc., etc. When your private issues reflect in the public domain, then it gets a kind of vitiated. Then a kind of so what happened in the post-independent India was till independence there was a public sphere in India in the form of national movement, but soon after the independence not last long, or it went on declining to or decline to a kind of a private sphere with more identity issues coming, or the life world issues, the issues, the caste issues. I am not only I'm saying that I'm not saying that caste is only a private issue, but remember caste is a political issue and a social issue. But people began to organize on the line of language, on the line of regional aspirations, and the public sphere lost its significance and its nationalistic perspective lost. Nationalistic perspective within court. And this life world issues began to be reflected in the public sphere. And to identify with the life world, system became a reflection of the life world without this rational critical debate. Or rather, I will say that the life world reflected in the systemic perception. Or system, the extension of the life world without any filtering. Independent ശേഷം ഇന്ത്യയിൽ സംഭവിച്ചത് the political leaders or the political masters carefully tried to avoid the emergence of the critical rational public debate, especially after 1970s. 1970-കൾക്ക് ശേഷം that critical public sphere was lost. But even then, there was a later space existed. As what Arvind Rajagopal says, there is a split public sphere existed in the form of English-speaking middle class community having a nationalist, having a progressive idea and a secular fabric, but they lost their appeal after 20th century or the last lap of the 20th century, they lost their significance. And these two serials played a vital role in the transformation of public sphere in India. These two serials are Ramayana and Mahabharata that was telecasted in 1987. Mahabharata was telecasted. It, in fact, amalgamated the split public sphere. That means those people who are reading Hindu newspaper, remember that was only around 40% of the total population reading Hindu newspaper that time. And English newspaper reading people was just 5%. But that 5% was Western educated, liberal minded, and of course having capitalistic aspirations. They are supposed to be relatively English newspaper reported in a different way. Hindu newspapers reported in a different way when the theatre took place. This was the account of this book, Arvind Rajagopal's work, Politics After Television. In book, Kumar published in India as the people who are subscribing the English newspapers, people who are subscribing the regional and Hindi newspapers, where the regional Hindi newspaper reporters or the subscribers are identity oriented, they are more religiously motivated than the English subscribers or the English newspaper reading people. And in that sense, that there was a split. But with the telecast of this split disappeared, and there was a mood created that these both these characters, Ramayana or Sri Krishna, or the characters are almost like a real kind of a characters in the theatre. They try to associate the simples of Ramayana and the simples of Mahabharata in real. So in that sense, there was a transformation happened during this Ramayana serial or Mahabharata telecasting, and the public sphere underwent a tremendous shift from the split public sphere to a kind of a homogenized, unified visual space was created. And the same thing happened after the century. The English-speaking people, even the middle class or the relatively progressive, the relatively rational people, even the English dailies began to consider or began to follow this. So, in Times of India reported in 1992, there is a nation betrayed, there is a republic in peril, but in the same Times of India report this is just to the Prime Minister laying before the Ramlala. So what I am going to say is, in my conclusion, I will say what happened here is the public sphere that needed to be rational, critical, and having universal access, those significance in the post-independent India, and where there was a structural transformation in European setting with the capitalist market came to being and the mass consumption culture came, the critical space. That was in the European context. But in Indian context, the public sphere was manipulated and the public sphere was transformed into a kind of a private sphere, more identifiable as than a critical, rational public sphere. This is a threat to the existence of the very concept of democracy, because the democracy will become meaningful,
Point.
democracy will become stronger enough only if, only if there is a critical, rational public debate, there is a critical, rational public discourse happening, and if there is no public sphere between the society and the state, of course, the state will, or the in regime will reflect what the feudal reflect what the feudal regimes or the monarchy regimes during the European city. That means a refeudalization is happening with respect to the public sphere, and the distinction between the society and the state is soon disappearing, and this is a threat to the very concept of a big way. This is what I want to argue in this presentation, and I think we will go with discussions. welcome back. Let's have some any explanation with respect to any of the aspect I will.
Sir, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon.
Yeah, time is late.
Am I audible?
Yeah, audible.
Okay, sir. Thank you. My name is Asruddin. I am a student of Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, my question is nowadays the media is seen as the fourth pillar of democracy, but it is very shameful that even during this pandemic, the very responsible media spreading fake news and even half truths. I think there is no difference between the so-called WhatsApp casual moments and the journalist of the country. Um, they are selling their democratic sense and social responsibility for the sake of TRP. How do you look at this very pitiful condition?
Yeah, Azaru, your name is, can I get your name?
Asharuddin. Sir, Asharuddin.
Asruddin, yeah. Asur, Asruddin, yeah. Asruddin, I don't think democracy is the fourth pillar. And I won't consider what we have is, and I am totally against this, what do you call, um, uh, I'm totally against comparing democracy as a rather, I consider democracy as a feeling uh, of living together and coexisting. In that sense, there are no pillars existing, but there are veins existing. You can say some veins. Even though I am not structural, I am against structural connotation. There are some veins. So where what is the issue with the present media? Media is no more a kind of a product of a public sphere. Rather, media is just an instrument in a market society to get more profit. And as the private hospitals are doing, as the private education institutions and the universities are doing, as the private factories and the private farm fields are doing, the same job is done by the media. First, we have to ensure that there is a revenue. There should be a decent revenue for the company and for the employees. So it's a company, it's an industry. When they are doing just in the industry, they can do two things. Either they can go with the professional standard they have. They have the professional standard. What is their professional standard? They are reporting real news as such as the English newspapers, for example, the Hindu to an extent. I'm not referring to a particular newspaper. As what Arvind Rajagopal is saying, they can report within a frame the actual things as it is. But even then, there is a problem. When you interpret the Bhumi Puja, then the actual reporting will be like that the Indian Express is doing. But the same Indian Express did the reporting in 1992 with a critical editorial policy reflecting in the newspaper. Is it true or a false? That is a different question. That is a difficult question to answer. But for me, you are a human being. If you want to communicate something as a news, you have so objectivity is the most important component of a professional news broadcaster or a news publisher. But objectivity becomes or objectivity is at risk in the competition to give or to get more audience or the viewership. Speed and objectivity. As a professional media person, I understand these two things are very difficult to go along with. You have to speed up, but to accelerate the reporting, of course, some information in the live reporting will go, what do you call, uh, away from the real fact. This is acceptable to an extent until you correct it. Media people are not doing their homework actually. So this is a question of lack of professionalism. So Asruddin, I will conclude. So you have to approach it two ways. One, there are some professional errors going away from activity. It is the mistake, lack of professionalism, lack of homework, etc. And there are the second thing that is more important and more dangerous. That is the kind of a paid news and news with agenda setting, a kind of a news going alongside a lopsided subjective perspective. All these things are happening in the second sphere. That is not a professional issue. That is the political issue. I am concerned with the political issue. The rest of the things, if there are good journalists, they will do homework and then they will report actually. But the system has now been considered as nothing but a market instrument for gain profit. Been relegated to such a level. And there is one question, Imran Khan. Arun, so don't you think the nationalism in India we are witnessing today is going to be a disaster in keeping democracy alive? Of course, all these nationalistic issues or the nationalistic, what do you call, slogans, nationalistic fermentations, formulations, all are against the concept of democracy. As democracy is not confined within walls, not confined within boundaries. Democracy is a universal phenomenon and it is a nationalistic phenomenon. It is constrained within national democracy, then the democracy is in peril. This is why Tagore says, I won't believe in nationalism. So democracy is not nationalistic in nature. Democracy is the universal feeling. It's a universal value, I consider.
Sir,
Yes?
one more question. And
Yeah, please.
according to Haberman, public sphere is a society engaged in a critical public debate. He mentions about the two conditions of a
Yeah.
public sphere. That is the formation of public opinion. That's first one, and second one is the all citizens have access. And my question is, don't you think that his approaches are or his ideas are still applicable or relevant in a country where almost 40% of the total population are not casting their vote in elections? So, do you think that Haberman's ideas are still relevant?
Actually, the public, I got it. I got it. And I still consider the idea of Yuval Habermas is to an extent an idealistic conception. There is a public sphere with universal access. There were class differences existed. It was a middle class or a bourgeois society, a bourgeois public sphere. You can call it as a bourgeois public sphere. And in India, there is a middle class public sphere. Exists. Middle class, those persons who are engaging in critical rational discourses, or, for example, if you are witnessing the evening news discussions, you are in a 21st century public sphere. You are a member in the public sphere. But this public sphere got a lot. But even then, you are listening to some issues in a critical way. So you are becoming a participant of that. So casting vote to responsibility, but it is not the duty of the public sphere to participate in the government formation. That is the duty of these people who are within the system. You can cast your vote, or you can to you to take a decision. But remember, nota or the presence of the persons who are not taking part in the political or in the election procedures cannot be a yardstick for measuring the existence of a public sphere. The public sphere has this major more major four characteristic features, of which the most important one is universal access. Universal access within inverted comma. That means if you have money, only then you will go to the tea shop. Those who are in the treatment without not the tea shops for this public discussion. Second, if you don't have money, you will not enter into the saloon. For the example, the hippies or the people, gypsies, who are not part of this public sphere. Public sphere is inclusive in theory, but it is not inclusive in theory. It is exclusive in practice. Public sphere. That's another criticism against Jürgen Habermas. But in India, even that public sphere did not exist. A relatively small sphere existed during the time of independence in the form of national movement, but it soon disappeared or declined or transformed into a sphere which can be identifiable within the life world by the post-independent political situation. This was augmented again and again by the communal tendencies of the civil society and the state, at a state consent or the compromise towards that. Okay. So there is legislation for making media more credible. No. Jomi, I am totally against any form of external control over media. Suppose, if what is the one of the feature of the public sphere is that they are following rule of law. But at the same time, if you try to control the media in a big way, an external force is there, then the media cannot work in its independent space. So the media should generate a control mechanism from within. So there should be an internal control. There should be an internal regulatory framework within the media establishment, so that they can control themselves. So the access should be determined by them, not by the state. If the state is determining the yardstick, then it will become an authoritarian state. There is no public sphere. There is no public sphere existing for this rational discourse, doing it with or under the legal permissions of the state. Though, so any kind of external support, any kind of external pressure in the form of a law, in the form of a rule, that personally change the freedom of the press in a big way. So that's the answer to Jomi Joseph. So there is no legislative solution. There is only an internal solution to this. This should come from within. To build up any value regarding the EA draft, that's a very good question, Harry. But I can't say it now. But the government says, if you believe the government says it's just a draft, not a bill. This is a draft. You are submitting your responses, your reaction to it, and the government has to understand the public mood of what's happening in the environmental politics after 1986, and especially after 1990s. It is a larger corporatization. Policies are formulated to cater to the needs of the corporations. So, mechanism, there should be a fast-moving mechanism. There should be special zones where these environmental laws are not applicable. So, a state is theoretically supposed to hear all our. I don't know they do it practically, because this is more political in nature and more commercial in nature.
Sir?
Jomi, how do we expect an industry which is profit? Anjina.
Sir, please. My question is, what is your opinion on the authoritative nature or character of the state that is visible today?
I didn't get fully. What is it?
Sir, my question is on your opinion of the authoritative nature or the character of the state that is visible today.
Yeah. Authoritarian, of course. I won't say Indian state is an authoritarian. And if you read Ramachandra Guha, he wrote it beautifully. During the early periods Indian Republic, state behaved like an aspiring or an emerging democracy with electoral democracy and with all experiments and with all regionalism, centralization in its character. During the time of Indira Gandhi, centralization became the hallmark of the state, and all the kind of democratic component get drizzled out or drained. But still, electoral democracy, the nature was there. But government was not authoritarian except for the 2 years where um, there was emergency. And rest of the period, Indira Gandhi rule was a kind of a decentralized mechanism. But after that, till 2014, India had experimented with the coalition politics where electoral democracy was there, where there was the pressure of coalition, and even though centralized state is there, more regional forces emerged. So in 1990s to 2000 or 1995, 96, all these periods, a kind of a coalition period, and even 2004 to 2001 as a coalition, you find a period of regionalism. But soon after that, in 2014 onwards, you are witnessing another shift in the Indian Republic. It's soon becoming neither but I mentioned Indian state is slowly moving towards a kind of a totalitarian way with a central ideology. During Indira Gandhi's time, there was no or totalitarian ideology existed. State was partially authoritarian during the time of emergency. But after 2014, state is not only becoming authority, they are totalitarian by indoctrinating, by politically sanctioning a political ideology called the Hindutva. This is what we witnessed. So I consider the democratic component in the form of even they are sabotaging all the electoral or the elected public places, like what they are doing in Madhya Pradesh, what they have done in Madhya Pradesh, what they have done in Maharashtra, what they are trying to do in Rajasthan, what they have done in Karnataka. Elected governments were thrown out of power by alluring or by defection or by threat or by using the state apparatus like Enforcement Directorate, like Income Tax Department, like CBI. And another aspect is the judiciary used in a politically cunning, in a politically lopsided way, and income tax departments are used. Even the election commission is used for this criticism against the Modi. In that sense, even though Indira Gandhi did not touch the electoral democratic component or the electoral democratic devices, and here the pause we are witnessing electoral democracy is soon disappearing from this republic. The prospect is soon disappearing. In that sense, I am not a pessimist.
Hi, sir. I'm Varna from St. Mary's College, Putrangali.
Yeah.
Sir, please explain.
Yes,
Please
Varna,
explain the gender role in public sphere.
I
Sir,
didn't
can
get
you
it.
hear
Sorry,
me?
it's my problem.
Sir, can
Could
you
please
hear
repeat?
me? Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Varna, could you please repeat?
Sir, please explain the gender role.
You can I can hear you. You can either ask in Malayalam or in English. No issue at all.
Sir, gender role.
Gender
Yeah.
role in public sphere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very important question. In fact, that's one of the aspects that I tried to tell you during the European sitting. The public sphere was possible because there the gender equality concept was at least on air with the Enlightenment struggles and the feminist movement. But in India, the public sphere, though it was inclusive within inverted commas, the value systems, the caste is not to permit this gender or the female to take part in this public sphere in a healthy way. So the access was denied internally, even though there is an open, for example, the bar is open, people are not going. I'm not recommending that you go to bar and take alcohol. Even though there is alcohol, pubs are open, but women in the rural India are not going to pubs. Why? Because of the internal issues. Is open, structurally open, but here the family bondage and the world don't know or don't permit this female to take part in this activity in the public sphere. So, but it's slowly changing. It's slowly changing. There is rational critical debate going in universities because the universities are getting more female students or more women students. There is involvement in this public sphere, but these public spheres are very little or very small in nature and the quantity. Still, there are many people in our Indian folks not aware of point number one. Two, and see what's happening in your home. Most of the women serials, they were reading earlier the Manorama, Mangala, Mangalam, all these kind of things. Now they are watching the television. What these television serials are doing? Exactly what these Hindi newspapers did during the time of Ram Janmabhoomi movement. They are not discussing any public issue, but rather than they are bringing people more with private, discussing the personal ego between the two individuals and the relationship and the family kind of thing. So what's happening here is that space is not a public sphere where they are more comfortable within the private and the public sphere becomes elusive of this gender equality, or rather the public sphere cannot have as much as female participation in it because of the issue within the world. So that's an issue. As long as you watch the television serial, our public sphere will become what do you call a gender unequal. As long as you read those private matters, will never be part of this public sphere, or the public sphere will be patriarchal in nature. Do you think nowadays judiciary or the court of law is acting in accordance to any agenda or Sangha Parivar interest? That's quite visible. It's there. There is. Read the judgment. Read the judgment of Ayodhya verdict. It's full of that kind of a tendency. And I stop here. Exactly, our judiciary is not free from criticism, and there should be something we have to connect with the judicial mechanism. But as the clear written, I don't know how the judiciary can be aloof from the tendency of the society and the state as a whole. It's moving with, or can you can politically bribe them. Offering a Rajya Sabha seat to a chief justice is not a good indication in any sense. Offering a Rajya Sabha seat to a chief justice is not a politically correct thing as far as the separation of power is concerned. Will I get okay? I think it's 12:30. We have around 135 people on board. Rafi, can I stop here if there are no more discussion?
Thank you, sir. Now we would like to call Hari M.,
Yeah.
student representative of Political Science Department for vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, all of you. I'm really exhilarated right now after hearing such an engrossing class, and I'm here to express the vote of thanks on behalf of the Political Science Department of St. Mary's College, Puthanangadi. Firstly, I would like to thank our Honorable Principal, Father Denny, for the welcome speech. Next, Father Varghese for the presidential address, and our dear officer, HOD of Political Science Department, for introducing the resource person. Now, foremostly, Dr. Arun Kumar sir for a winsome class which was really gripping. Being an ardent fan, it was really a wonderful experience. All the teachers who were present and who gave their support even in their absence. For the most part, I thank Suhail sir of Political Science Department and the college management for coordinating this event even under these hectic circumstances. And for all the audience, including students and teachers from other colleges and even outside Kerala. Now, I would like to thank Nada Shabir Ali for anchoring this program rhythmically. Lastly, we thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.